Hello, everybody. How are you all doing? So, what this is just a daily thing that I want to start doing, where I sit down and I just talk with all of you. The reason why is because I think it's important. Some of my best videos have been when I have just sat down and been real. So, but that's not the purpose of this. In fact, the purpose is less about me and more about all of you. I want this space to be something that everyone can enjoy. Let me explain. I'm not a person that, feels better by talking about their situation and feelings and working through it with other people. In fact, I'm the type of person where if I am going through something, I don't want to share it with people. I don't want to spread my misery around, and I just want to deal with it, accept it, and just kind of move through it, or for the most time, I simply ignore it, which is not a good thing. It is not good to hold stuff in. And that is why I'm trying to be more prevalent in lots of things. I'm sharing my situation, my emotions more. I'm trying to respect people enough to be forward and actually talk about things and not just let it be. And that being said, the best thing that has really helped me get through stuff is listening to other people and, through some sort of empathetic link, enjoy their expression, their joy, their sadness, It is very difficult for me to, accept my own emotions and situation. And so usually how I work through it is simply by, ignoring it, or I'm just unable to understand or accept it, so I try to move beyond it or move past it by if I'm sad, maybe I'll watch someone being funny or having fun, because maybe that'll help me get out of this. And so that's sort of what this is. As is with everything as to why I started doing YouTube, I want to give back to the community. I want to be that safe space that people can come to just to be open, be relaxed and chill and vibe, whatever the kids are calling it nowadays. But yeah, I really want to sort of give this space that I have here to all of you, to the people that don't have someone to talk to, that don't have a place to go, where there isn't, a sort of output and escape. And I am also someone that is struggling with that. I don't have a hobby. I don't have a outlet. I have so much stuff that's just sort of bound up, and I've never really let it go or allowed it to work itself out, which is not a good thing. And so, at least to start off with, I'm going to start with myself. And I think I'm just going to, at least for now, I want to try and do these daily. I want to sit down, I want to, talk about what's going on with me, my daily situation, and whatnot. But, yeah, I suppose let's just go for it. Currently, I am struggling with a few different aspects. I have recently been getting into role-playing games, such as Dungeons & Dragons, although there is a current legal issue happening with Dungeons & Dragons. And it's just one more reason as to why I'm trying to move away from Dungeons & Dragons. I find it easier for me to write stories, and, I'm very good at being a narrator. I can also adapt to situations. I'm good at presenting a theme, describing situations and whatnot. The problem is that sometimes I overlook or completely ignore game mechanics because I am making a story, and in that sense I'm taking away control from the players, and I don't want to do that, because the game should be about them getting to play and have fun and getting to do stuff, not just watching what I have for them. So, in my in my desire to try and make a game where it's completely open and completely free, with all this cool and interesting stuff for them to get to do, I have actually really alienated them and made them feel unable to actually get to do anything, and the game doesn't necessarily feel like it's about them, or that they themselves are even important. So that's just one of the things I'm struggling with. Currently, I just ended a game because, people just weren't really connecting to the story anymore, and there was no more game really to be played, so we just decided to end it, which is kind of unfortunate, but it's understandable. The really upsetting thing is that I myself am just sort of hollow and empty because I don't get to finish it. It feels left open to me. So there was no, climactic finisher and whatnot. And so that's upsetting, to say the least. But I'm one of those people that doesn't like starting things unless I can finish them. And I like my sense of worth is by the work that I've done. So by completing little things, I feel great, which is why I make and collect figurines, and I do little dioramas, and they don't take up a lot of space. It's one of those things where the bigness of it doesn't necessarily fulfill the aspect of how many things you've done, I suppose. So I'm trying to give myself little wins here and there, but I don't know. The other thing too is that I don't know how to respond and interact with other people. Subtlety is something that is often evade me, but the biggest thing is when you talk to someone else, that's a whole nother person that you're talking to. That's a whole nother world, a whole nother life that you have not experienced and don't understand, and trying to interact with that in even the slightest of ways can mean a lot. And depending upon how it goes, it can be good and it can be bad. And you may not even know until later that something you thought was good or bad was in fact neutral or the opposite. It's annoying and frightening. And so, as always, I feel as though it is better for me to simply not, which is not a good thing. I don't want to give up. I don't want to stop. It is difficult to keep going, but I find that it is important. You know, if you care enough, you will make sure that you know, sorry. Make sure that the wrong is righted, basically, is the point. You know, if you hurt somebody's feelings, you don't just run away. You know, you go and apologize to that person. It doesn't matter what happened, what's been said or done. What's important is that person, right? If you want that person to stay in your life, you need to apologize to them. And it's one of those things where it doesn't really matter what the argument was, what the point that was trying to get across, who's at fault, who's to blame, who's right, who's wrong. You know, if you have said something that has hurt somebody, that's wrong, and you should apologize for that. And one of the biggest things I really struggle with is that I do understand little things like that, and I see stuff like that, and I call it out even, but I hold myself accountable for a lot of things. And you know, it's this mentality of the things that you dislike about other people are the things that you really hate about yourself. So especially when it is that you knew that you were bad at something, or you had this sort of flaw, and since then you have overcome it, you have moved past that, you are better than that. But then when you see other people doing it, when you see them, you know, making the same mistakes, it what you should be feeling is like, oh, I can see where they're coming from, I can help them. But more often we feel infuriated because, you know, why should they be able to get away with it? You know, it's like aggravating and makes you, you know, not hate the other person, but, you know, it is irritating for them to, you know, be wandering about and simply doing the thing that you worked so hard to make sure you're doing it right. You know, that's why when you work on something and you do a good job at it and people walk in and stomp all over it and make a mess because they don't know any better. Well, they don't know any better. And they won't know unless you tell them. But the thing I'm always worried about is it worth it to try and tell them? Is it worth all that time and effort to try and explain this obscure thing that honestly in the big scheme of things probably doesn't mean anything? But this has always been my mentality of, you know, I'll get over this tomorrow, you know. Nobody will even remember this. It's not important. Just move past it. And I don't know if that's good advice anymore. I really don't. You know, for most people, that might be good advice. But for me, for someone who's been putting myself, my emotions in a box and locking them up for so long, I don't know if that's a good thing to be doing. So the the current situation is that there is a lot of things that honestly probably don't mean that much, but are slowly wearing me down that I just don't know how to handle, how to deal with. I guess let's get into a few. I have been trying to get into voice acting because I'm trying to get into the world of online sort of job opportunities. I'm a very creative person. I should be working with art and creativity and all that sort of stuff. I'm a great editor, both with writing and you know visual art. I'm very good at taking something and shifting it and changing it, looking at it from a different perspective and altering it slightly and making it maybe not better, but different. Helping it be easier for other people to understand, make it more clear or simpler. Anyhow, I have been working with my dad ever since I dropped out of school, because he said if I'm going to be living at his house, I need to be working. It's been a good situation. I've been able to pay rent, and it's been a good life. The thing is that the job that I'm currently at is getting worse and worse because of different situations. Not because of my dad specifically. There's a lot of tension, and the biggest thing that I'm trying to bring up is that it's physical labor. And my body isn't necessarily designed for physical labor. I have adapted. I've put on some muscle mass. My, physique has adjusted. But I am a fairly weak person. But I have the heart to do a good job. I have the strength of will to get it done and make it happen despite everything. I can overcome myself in order to do things. But I don't want to be running at 200% every single day. I would like to be working on other things, and so that's why I'm seeking out different opportunities. And I'm trying to get into voice acting because, that's just how it goes. You try and get some sort of activity going and get a reputation, maybe some sort of basis and reputation. Connections is the word I was looking for. Once you meet some people, then it gets the ball rolling, and once you're part of something, people can start to recognize that. But for me, for someone who puts in a lot of work and effort, and then to get nothing but constant rejection has been difficult. So the constant auditions have not been great on my mental health, but I've been taking breaks and I've been regulating that, and I've gotten better about that. But that is one aspect of my life that I have been pursuing that is just not working. The other thing I have also been pursuing, or rather, actually let's go back to something else. One thing that I did pursue was attempting to, be a YouTuber where I made videos on a regular basis, but I never really had the viewer retention. The only people that were subscribed to my channel that watched my videos were people that I knew specifically. Either, they were people that I played games with, or, knew from some social media, and we hung out and whatnot, and I said, hey, I do have a YouTube channel. Those were the only ways that I got subscribers. But, recently, as I've been posting D&D games and some other things, I think I've been getting, friends of friends or friends of players watching the sessions. So that's been getting my, subscriber rate up. I'm about 106 at this point, which is, nice to get above 100. I never did do a 100 subscriber special. I remember I was doing something in the works, and now I can't even remember. I had a bunch of friends that were streamers back when, the shutdown happened and everyone was on VR chat. So I tried streaming for a while, and I remember making schedules and, reaching out to people. I felt like I was doing all the necessary work and whatnot, but I still had no viewers, even though people said, oh yeah, I would come hang out, I would watch your stuff, but never really happened, which, again, is understandable. The biggest aspect, the biggest drawback, I think, for me is that I don't really have much of a personality that keeps people hooked or interested in some sort of, gaming aspect. I don't watch my own videos. I don't think they're particularly very interesting, except for the montages that I did of gaming and whatnot. That's sort of the stuff that I'm interested in. But when I tried to stream, I tried to make connections. I tried to make friends, and I tried to do schedules, and I tried to collaborate with people, and it just didn't work. And the friends that I had that were streamers slowly but surely left me behind, because streaming is their job, and it is more important than friendship, especially friendships with people like me that don't have anything to offer, don't have any relationships or connections to anything else other than simply being a friend. So it makes sense to just move on. I don't hate those people, but I do miss them. Those people were important to me, and, they meant something to me. And I don't know if I really, truly ever meant anything to those people, but I just, I wanted to do stuff with them. I wanted to be there for them, and slowly but surely, I was pushed aside. And it was a very strange situation, because it wasn't them stating like, hey, none of them really had the respect to be like, I don't think I can be friends with you anymore. It's just not working in my schedule. I'm really trying to pursue this. This is my dream. It was none of that. It was, I literally had some people just straight up block me because they just couldn't deal with, I don't know. And it's this sort of celebrity perspective that I've always disagreed with, even before I joined onto YouTube and Twitch. I've always disliked celebrities and how they put themselves on a higher tier, a higher echelon above, the common folk. I've never really, well, I can somewhat understand that, but I've never truly liked it. Because I haven't been in positions where I have both been the bottom, I have been the lowest of low, worse in the dirt, and hated. And I have also been, loved and admired by people that I don't know, and they truly do not know me. They don't know who I am, and just simply adore, admire me because they think I am something, or they want me to be something that I'm not. And I've got to say, the latter is far more disheartening, because at least if you're being bullied and you're being hated, then you could at least take pity on those people for having to put you down, the lowest of low, in order to make themselves feel better. But if people like you for something that you're not, it hurts more, because when people hate you for something that you're not, at least you convince yourself, like, well, I'm not an idiot. I'm not this thing that they're making me out to be. But if people like you, but they don't actually like you, then that really hurts, because eventually they'll find out and they'll leave you behind. And some of them will even hate you for it, for discovering that, you're not this perfect thing, or, and it goes to this idea of, like, never meet your heroes. People always say, like, oh, never meet your heroes because they'll break your mental image. And is that really a bad thing? And then there's also the idea of, like, don't meet your heroes because you might be weird to them, and that will also change because they will be acting differently. So I don't know. It's this strange sort of aspect where you're going back and forth with this idea that what truly matters in a connection between people has less to do with who you are than it does what they see in you. And sometimes it isn't about you. And that can be strange, difficult. But it is important to, understand that no matter what you say or do, no matter how you're feeling or thinking, or how you feel you are properly communicating something, it all means nothing unless that other person actually understands. It's about how they perceive you, how they hear the words that you're saying, how they, understand what it is that you're trying to say. Because if you say something like, this wall is the color blue, people will take that and be like, oh, well, this wall is good or bad because the color blue is good or bad. People will always read into things with however they feel or think about something. It's their history, their experience, their knowledge that you're having to deal with, and how they translate that is, I don't know. This is a little difficult to try and explain, but basically, you have to be careful about what you say, because something that you say or do that could be, even the simplest thing that you say or do can really impact other people. Just a smile to a stranger on the street could change that person's day, could change that person's year, or could change their life entirely. And I know, because I have been on both sides of that. I have had people interact with me in the slightest minute ways that they don't even know, and I may not even understand, but it means so much to me. And on the same end, I have also interacted with people in ways that I don't think either of us truly understood, but it was big enough that it made an impact. This is why communication is important. You need to be there often. It's not just about being upfront and being like, hey, this is how I feel, and then not be around for a month or so, and then come back and expect to still be friends. That person's life probably changed the very next day, very next hour, perhaps. A single phone call or a text can really shape someone's life. So, it's just important to be aware of not just your own life, but the lives that you impact around you. Which is why I'm having this talk here. Because I am certain that what I am saying and doing is interacting and affecting people. And as always, I hope that it is positive. I'm not hoping for change or anything necessarily, but I do hope that there is something going on that, I am able to do something for the good of whoever sees and hears this. Whoever you are, wherever you are, however you are, things can always change. You can always be different. You may not be able to do the things you want or be the person that you want, but you can at least start making steps. And it may feel impossible, but there is always a choice, even if it isn't the most obvious. Do something simple. Start breaking the cycle. Even if all that you do is hang your socks off the end of your bed before you go to sleep and when you wake up in the morning. Whatever that change is, start with that and then just keep exploring that. Keep doing new things. Don't stop. Cut your sandwiches differently. Try something new. You don't have to do it multiple times, but at least keep trying different things. You can break out of this cycle. It may not feel like you're able to do anything, or you feel like you have to get to a certain spot to be able to even attempt something, but you have the ability to think, to change. You have free will, and even if your only options are doing what you're doing or dying, you always have a choice, and you don't have to do anything you don't want to. There are a lot of people that whine and complain and want rules and regulations, or just want to complain for the sake of complaining because that makes them feel better, and if it does, good for them. But as of lately, a lot of people are lacking in responsibility and want someone or something else to take control of their life, or maybe not even control, but at least responsibility, and say that, whatever happened, isn't my fault. It's because of this thing or that thing, or there should have been this, there should have been a law, or all this stuff. And I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm just saying that people should be able to understand that what happened, and it happened. And the only thing we can do now is learn from it and move on from it. that is an experience, and we can choose to look at that and, you know, try to ignore it and move past it and, you know, blame other things in the world for it, or we can accept it, take responsibility, and, you know, respect ourselves enough to realize that this is something. Now, what are we going to do about it? So, yeah. I am currently out of water and I really need water, so I will be right back. I want to try and go for at least an hour. And I just want to sit down and I want to talk. And since these are going to be daily, a lot of these conversations aren't going to be about life, love, and other mysteries, but simply, you know, unwinding, unpacking. Currently, one of my biggest situations that I'm dealing with is that I still have a D&D game that I'm running, but I don't like the Dungeons and Dragons game system. I never really did, and slowly but surely, you know, I know that I like to run games that are very roleplay driven, and I'm describing a story, and this would probably work with some better systems, but I just don't know what they would be, and trying to change systems mid-game is difficult unless I can come up with a very cool, you know, story reason, I suppose. But I'm gonna try not to think about Dungeons and Dragons at all this week. I'm just going to let that one pass. I'm gonna slide on that and not let that weigh me down and stress me out. Instead, I think what I will talk about is that I have several other projects that I'm trying to get into. I want to get back into story writing, and one of the opportunities that I have been offered is that I have a friend that every so often gets a peak of interest in working on a project, and one of the things they asked me was doing a sort of story. Well, before they had a story that they were writing that they wanted some help with, and then they lost their fire with that. And then they said that they wanted to make a video game, and then they slowly lost interest with that. And this happens with a few other things, but one of the last things that was done was making a story about their character, their OC, that there is their streaming persona. And then after that sort of went through, I said, hey, I will still be coming up with ideas and writing stories and stuff. I don't think they believed me, but I did, and I have a pretty decent story, I think, written, not fully fleshed out or written down, but one of these things that I might do is after this these daily talks, I might do a a reading. I don't know if I'll do a live reading or just read it and record it and put it up like all the other books and whatnot that I have. But yeah. Actually, one of the things that I've always been wanting to do was edit My Immortal, which is a fan fiction about Harry Potter. Um, it's about this, I think, goth girl who's like dating Draco Malfoy. Um, and it's very badly written. Like, its grammar is bad, but I don't think the story is necessarily bad. A lot of people, tear into it, and it is that sort of stereotypical, and I think it is uh, old enough, and it yeah, the point I was trying to make is that it's probably popular, so lots of people may know it, or at least have heard about it. It's like mentioning something like Twilight. It's almost infamous, perhaps. And that's true of most fan fictions, is that they're infamous for being very poorly written, and not just grammatically, but also thematically. Basically, it's this idea of a person having an idea and not really knowing how to go about it, or just having this sort of narrow-minded view. But yeah, I think, with my skill set, I was legitimately thinking about taking My Immortal and writing it up and actually making something both readable out of it, but also making it relatively, interesting. Because I think the actual, and I haven't read that much of it, but the stuff that I did read, I was like, ignoring the aspects of how, like, blatant and direct and non-visual this is, I can see where it's going and probably the vision that this person had, and I can understand, the aspect of going to Hogwarts, attending classes, and dating Draco. I think is definitely something that, standalone is fairly interesting enough. So, anywho, oh, the other thing is that I'm also trying to get into drawing more, and so I'm also going to be drawing daily, trying to get better at doing art and doing it quick and whatnot, because I'm trying to do a comic. So I've got a little bit on my plate, but I want to have a wide net. So I am writing stories, I am drawing, I am making a comic, and I am auditioning for or horse. Oh, and I'm running D&D games. Well, RPGs. I want to move away from D&D. Yeah, that's sort of 5 things that I'm doing in my evenings, and I'm actually getting to work earlier in the day so I can get off work earlier, which just kind of means that I also need to be getting to bed earlier, but at least there's more light during the day when I start these things, which is sort of important for creativity and whatnot. So I think I am going to kind of wind down now, because I do want to get over and start drawing, get some practice in before I call it a night. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening in, for being here and being a part of this, and being a part of my life and allowing me to be a part of yours. Yeah. I think what I'm going to call this series is The Birds and the Needs. Because, it's going to be talks. It's going to be talks about things that are important. These sort of sit down communication things where we get together and discuss something that is important. And maybe it's a quick talk, maybe it's a short one, but it's impactful. It is something to take serious, and it is something of note that needs to be said, needs to be, you know, taken care of. Um, and also the fact that it's the needs. These are things that are important, taking care of your mental health, your spiritual and emotional health, and making sure that you're able to take care of yourself, basically. But also, you know, so the birds and the bees aspect, then the needs part, but also the bird, me and my needs. You know, I think that is fair enough to make it it is a significant part. You know, I am here. This is my perspective. This is my time. This is my effort. So I think it is important to, notate that I am a significant part of this and what it is. And it's not just about me, you know, reacting to somebody else's work or sharing something that somebody else has done. There are lots of, platforms where people do stuff like that. You know, whether you're a content creator that's just sort of reacting to it, giving it your face, your voice to it, or if you are, something that something like Daily Dose of Internet, where you're, introducing people to different things because you have a reputation. There is value in what people have to say, the things that they know, and what they're willing to share. The fact that people are willing to put themselves out there and share what they have and what they've done, it is, it is important. And it matters. It is significant. You are important. What you experience, what you have lived through, when you realize that your brain, what it has in store, your perspective is completely unique. Everything you know and have experienced and will ever say and do is the most precious, substance or, currency in the entire universe. You kind of start to see yourself with a little bit more respect. You're not just a nobody. You're not just somebody that simply exists, or, you're not just alive. You are a person. You are living. This is your life, and it means something, not just to you, but to anybody you choose to share it with. And I just wish more people saw it that way. Anywho, thank you all for coming out, and I'll see you in the next one. Good night.